Hi guys, it's Dale with the insurance. Today we're going to talk about an article. It's probably very important for small businesses because I know with a small business, every dollar is important, every asset is important. So hopefully this is helpful. The title of the article is, Does Your Small Business Need Directors and Officers Insurance? Right? So D&O insurance it's becoming increasingly popular, and I believe it probably has to do with our society becoming kind of more litigious, right? So people have to protect themselves from random lawsuits all the time, and it's even more important to a smaller company because it's not like they have a ton of assets to withstand thousands of lawsuits, right? Like one lawsuit may bankrupt you, right? Whereas a larger company may be able to pay off a few lawsuits. But when you think about it, D&O insurance is, it's fairly intuitive. It's insurance for the directors and officers of a company, right? So the directors and officers are basically essentially your executive team, your management team. It protects the assets of those people and their families. It also protects the company, right? So it's liability based. So it essentially provides coverage for the defense costs for any lawsuits that are levied against the company or the directors and officers of those companies. So it'll include kind of the legal costs, the any settlements, things of that nature, right? And then as I alluded to before, it's becoming so common that for a small business, it's a small price to pay for that peace of mind of having the coverage should you wind up in a situation where you're trying to defend yourself against kind of an employee, a customer, a potential client, anything of that nature. A few of the more common claims are, for example, misrepresentation is one, right? Let's say and these are, whether right or wrong, it really doesn't matter. Once it's in the court of law, you've got to prove your innocence, and hopefully you won't be assessed the penalty. But for instance, misrepresentation. Let's say your company oversells itself, right? In efforts to win the contract. You win the contract. Once you have the contract, you don't live up to what you said. You can't fulfill the contract. You could find yourself in a lawsuit from that customer. Another example, which is unfortunately common, is if a company isn't abiding by or complying with kind of employee workplace regulations, right? So if there's gender discrimination, right? There's unlawful discrimination in general, or wrongful termination. Those are things where an employee obviously is disgruntled. We won't get into rightfully so or not rightfully so, but they're disgruntled. They believe they've been treated unfairly. They bring a lawsuit either against the company or the directors and officers of that company, and your D&O insurance will kick in. In this example, this is why D&O insurance is actually coupled with EPLI, Employee Practices Liability Insurance, just specifically for those lawsuits that are levied by former employees towards the company and the directors and officers. Another common one that's often overlooked is almost, it's called employee piracy, but it's essentially theft of intellectual property, right? So you probably see this in an industry all the time. Either companies pluck talent from other companies in efforts to find out best practices of competitors, or employees actually leave the company and implement those best practices in a startup, in their new company, right? So those are kind of things to watch out for. Obviously, hopefully you never have to use it, but it's a small price to pay for D&O insurance to have that peace of mind just in case you need it. Hopefully this was helpful. Thanks for stopping by. We'll talk to you guys next week.